Today we're in for a treat, guys, because we have Melissa Radke of Eat Cake, Be Brave.
The Lillian
Fasten your
McDermott Show.
seatbelts. We're going to learn and grow together. Hey, by the way, Melissa, it's time to dance. Here we go. Oh, I knew you'd be a great dancer.
No, I will dance. No one said I would be great at it.
But you know what? Dance is good enough. It doesn't matter how you dance, just dance.
That's right. That's right.
Dance and be brave. That's going to be my book. This is my theme song. Here you go. I got a lot of people doing the head bob. Oh, there you
Good, because that's about all I can do.
You got a 30-second dance routine, right? Here we go.
Place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who've been listening to the show for the last 7 years, or maybe just stumbled upon it yesterday and you tuned in again today, I am so grateful to you. But if this is the first time that you've tuned in to the Lillian McDermott radio show, I've been waiting for you. Just know that this is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, today, we are giving away a book that you're going to have fun reading as well as learn and grow with Melissa Radke. So I'll give you the number in a little bit, but how many times have you been told you cannot do or should not do something that you truly want to do, that you know you were born to do? How do you deal with it? Well, Melissa Radke, the author of Eat Cake, Be Brave, at age 41, realized that by blowing out her candle, that it was actually her birthday cookie, is what she calls it, her birthday cookie. She decided that she would simply be brave. And she's going to share today how she's been able to go from being told that she's not enough and buying into it and believing it to being brave and being a sensation on the internet, social media. Perhaps I hear rumors of her own show. So much has happened to her, but how has she done it? And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Melissa Radke is here to do just that. Welcome, Melissa, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm excited that we have the opportunity to have this conversation today. So share a little bit about your background, because prior to the age 41, you may have been known in your circles, but now you have gone outside of your familiar circle. Let's talk a little bit about your background and where you're at today.
Well, this book is based off of the year that I turned 41, and it takes a while to write a book. And then it takes a while to put a book out. So if that tells you anything, I'm not 41, but that's as far as I'm telling you.
Oh, you should be proud of that age.
I am 44 years old. And so really the last 30 years of my life have been such a drastic turn from what the first, 41 were. I am from the South, the deep South. I am from about an hour and a half outside of Houston in a small town called Lufkin. I was born and raised here my whole life, but I met my husband, fell in love, got married, and we moved to Nashville. I lived in Nashville for 16 years. And in that time, that's a lot of where my story comes in, is during that time in Nashville. Nashville is a beautiful place, a talented place. Everybody goes there to make their dreams come true.
Sure.
That was not the case for me. I found in Nashville that I sounded the part. I sounded good. I had the vocal chops, but I did not look the part. And I we ended up going through 12 years of infertility. Oh yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. The story just keeps getting more fun.
Yeah.
We went through infertility. We actually had a son and lost that son, had to bury him, and ended up with 2 beautiful children through the miracle of adoption, which I cannot rave enough about, and ended up moving back to the small hometown that I was born and raised in. Because as someone asked me before, why leave Nashville to go back to Lufkin? And I said, well, because it's easy. The barbecue is better and the babysitting is free. So I ain't no dummy.
Yeah.
So we're back here now. And that was the year that I turned 41. We had recently moved back, and everything in my life just came to this head, this thing of, no, I was meant for more. I was made for more than this.
Yes.
And you'll read the rest is history. It's in the book, but that's where I am now. And that year of living brave, it hasn't stopped yet. I just keep doing it, you know?
And it won't, because once you know better, you do better, right?
That's right.
Once you know that you're not going to buy into the lie anymore that held you captive, it is very freeing.
And also,
yes.
And once you taste more, you want more. You know what I mean? So don't give up until you've had this taste of purpose, this taste of destiny, this taste of, oh my word, was I made for this? And then you get a hunger that you know, and that's that fire. So
yes, passion. You know, this is the passion that we all long for. There's so many people in life that go through life saying, well, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what my passion is, but they certainly, if they say yes, and I've written articles about just saying yes, say yes, and then figure out the rest.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And so today we are giving away Eat Cake, Be Brave, be the 5th caller or texter, 407-373-5959, and be the winner of the book. That's the 5th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. And we're going to continue our conversation with Melissa Radke, author of Eat Cake, Be Brave, when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is where we continue to talk, because they're listening to commercials, which from my sponsors, which are absolutely wonderful. But then I get to talk right now because, you know, I do want to talk about, since it is Thursday, it's a thriving Thursday. So those are so many messages, you know, dealing with loss, dealing with, you know, infertility, and dealing with, you know, being told you're not enough. There's so many people in life that don't even know that that is their fear motivator. Right. You know, and that helps you, held you captive. At what, you know, at 41, were you building to that? Were you like there was this like continuous, just not unhappiness.
I know what you're saying, and I have the word.
It's annoying. Yeah, what's the word?
I have the word for it because this word came to me about when I first got to start, when the book released and I got to start talking about Eat Cake, Be Brave. I asked myself, Melissa, what was it? Why 41? Was it this epiphany? I hadn't read this book on bravery. I didn't see, you know, the cat poster of like, when you get to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. There was no reason why then, except that for about a year before, I had been feeling a quaking. And that is quaking, a restlessness in my spirit. Something was coming. And I think that is our sign, our soul's sign to ourselves that you're not done.
Yes.
You're not done. There's something else, or you're almost there. So when we feel that quaking in our spirit, please.
This is a reminder. Rocco, remember to take your pill.
That is Alexa. And that's my point to you. When you feel it quaking, get an Alexa. Alexa off. Yeah, sorry.
So do you need to take your pill?
Yeah. Rocco, Alexa off. Let me tell you something listen, you guys watching, I told Lillian from the beginning, I'm about as real as it gets. And sadly, that is very true. Okay.
Well, we got 30 seconds and now we're getting on. Okay. We're continue this conversation on the air. That was funny. You just got to laugh. My son is a comedian, and every time something happens, I say, you know what, Blake, there's a joke in there somewhere.
407-370-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn from one another. And today's teacher is Melissa Radke. And her book is called Eat Cake, Be Brave. And of course, you're listening to the Lillian McDermott radio show. So the cake is sugar-free, gluten-free, all healthy, and all good, and filled with goodness. But be brave is translated in any language. So for those of you who would like a copy, fifth caller or texter, 407-373-5959.
And don't let her fool you. Don't let her fool you, y'all. That cake is not gluten-free or sugar-free. Eat that cake and enjoy it, okay?
Okay, so here we go. You've dealt with a lot of loss. And I remember at the age of 47, that was a while ago. Mm-hmm. At the age of 47, there was, you call it something else, and we're going to talk about that. For me, the word that I could describe was discontentment. I was discontent. I was happy in my life, had a great life, but at the age of 47, something was brewing in me. It was like a water, like filling up a well. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew I needed to do something different. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started my personal growth journey in a different way. And so I had already started the radio. But my decision at that moment, once I knew that truth, that new truth about myself and what was driving me, I said, I want the rest, my next 50 years to be better than my first. So let's talk about what you called your quaking. Quaking?
Quaking, just a quaking of my spirit. Something was becoming unearthed, and I could feel it. It's the same thing but different words than what you're saying.
Yes.
When we wake up and we go, why are we so hungry for this all of a sudden?
Yes.
And you take in everything. Hey, and it's like, my mother says, eat the fish, spit out the bones. Some of it's going to work for you and some of it's not.
Yes.
And that's okay. That's part of the journey, the learning. But yeah, like you, I began to have that, and I couldn't get settled. But here I was, right? Here I was in this home, raising two children that I fought tooth and nail to finally have, in a marriage that had been pieced back together and finally restored.
Yes.
I didn't want to lose any of that, and I was in this routine, but I knew that all of the negative and all of the embarrassment that I had experienced up to now, all the loss, all the grief, it had to be for something.
Absolutely.
God help us if it's all for naught. What kind of life is that? Where we deal with those things, we battle it, we become embarrassed by it, shamed by it. We tattoo ourselves up with all the negativity people have ever said, and then we don't use it for anything. No. Oh, if I was going to go down, I was going to go down fighting.
Absolutely. And that's called responsibility, which is what we focus on. The word responsibility is not sexy. But when you take ownership of your life and you say, I'm not going to let anyone define who I am. I am who I am, but I need to figure out who I am. Yeah. Because that's what happens, because we have bought into the lie. We have bought into their definition of us. That becomes who we are, but it's not. And you cannot hide the truth from your spirit. You cannot. You might hide the truth from your brain.
That's right.
But you cannot hide the truth from your spirit.
You can't outrun yourself. You can't outrun yourself.
That's right. And so let's start from the very beginning here, because I want people that have never heard you. And again, we're talking to Melissa Radke, the author of Eat Cake, Be Brave. For those of you that want a copy of the book, fifth caller or texter, 407-373-5959. So from the very beginning, you had someone in your life that you absolutely love that told you, oh, you can't do this, or you shouldn't do this. So share the coulds and the shoulds and the nots in your life that kind of started developing these limitations that maybe you were created for more, but you started getting caged into this is who you need to be.
Well, first of all, I want your listeners to know that the book it's funny. It's a
Yes,
funny
it is.
book. I consider myself to be a funny person, and I write like I talk. If you hear me talking today, you're going to hear the book the exact same.
You'll read the word y'all a lot of times. I'm just saying, Melissa.
If you take a drink every time I write y'all, you're going to be drunk by the time. Okay, so don't do that.
Don't play the game.
Yeah. But one of the stories that I begin with is when I was growing up in junior high, I wanted to be a cheerleader. Now, let me just say this for the record. I thought cheerleaders were the end all. I still do. I think they're wonderful. I don't know how they can defy gravity like they do. And I think they're beautiful and chipper, and it's great. But what I really wanted now, I know this now,
yes,
was to have a place. I wanted to belong to something. Mm-hmm. And so I tried out for cheerleader this many times, and I made cheerleader this many times.
Yes,
that's right.
3-0, yes.
So if you can do math, that is this many times I was a cheerleader. Yes. I simply tell you that to say that I began to notice a pattern when I was growing up of not fitting in, mm-hmm. of couldn't quite compete, yes. Couldn't be like everybody else, and it carried on. And so I lived in a small town. I went to kind of a rural country school. And at rural schools, here's what people do. They show pigs and goats in competitions. That's a thing. And they play sports. I couldn't do either of those things. I could sing. So I stuck out like a sore thumb at my school. And that followed me. It followed me into my adulthood. It followed me into college. It followed me into Nashville. Again, I could sing in Nashville, and finally I'd found this land, right, where everybody could sing, but I did not fit into this mold. Once again, I needed to fit. I needed to be conforming, and I couldn't. I'm a plus-size woman in a Mrs. Size world, and Nashville didn't like that. And so I heard that from teachers. I heard that from university professors. I heard that from producers. I had a producer once. I literally left the studio after singing. His words to me were, Melissa, it is a shame you could sing like that, girl. I said, why? And he said, because people just don't buy ugly. And I remembered that was such a defining moment for me because I was in Nashville. He was sitting beside a country artist that you would know today if I said their name. Mm-hmm. And I thought, he has literally just said in one sentence what everyone has said in my life, spoken over me up to this very moment. This is it. That's my life. Stand in the back, cover your head, cover your face, and sing. Work for us, perform for us, but you don't really look the part. And I had just heard that repeatedly over and over until it determined everything I did and everything I was. It determined how I walked and how I talked, and I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, it's like caging an animal. Like an animal that was born to be free, and all of a sudden putting it in captivity. And that's how I felt, as I was listening to your story, reading your story, and how it was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, mm-hmm. doing things that kept you in that cage to mm-hmm. keep you repeatedly. And so I know the book is a funny book, and you look at the funny side. Like I was telling you off the air, I tell my son anytime that there's like a drastic or something that happens to him or to us, I say, there's a joke somewhere in there. And you would always find that positive. But was that positive a positive that was uplifting to you, or did it kind of like, did you become one of the people that said you couldn't do it? Did you become that? Because we hear the voices in our head, and Mark Travis, who's he writes and he produces for in Hollywood. He writes this. It's called Write Your Story. He does a class, a course, a workshop. And I went to California to be part of it. And he always says that in our head there's a committee. That we have a committee, and that there's voices. And who is that? And he had a voice. He had a member in his committee called Vic, Vicious Inner Critic. And so we all have this committee. So who was part of your committee?
Wow. That's a great way to think about it. You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I was answering to a board of directors.
You had a board of directors. And what was the feel of the board of directors?
The feel of the board of directors was, haven't we suffered enough? Quit putting yourself out there Haven't we suffered enough? Just stop it. Dreaming big, living full was never part of the game plan for you, Melissa. So let's just rechart our course here. Let's just go back to square one. But I knew if I let the board of directors take me back to square one, it would be to live small. And I didn't want to live small. That was never part of the plan for me. And so I had to quiet the board. I absolutely love that. I'm stealing that from you and I'm giving you no credit.
I'll write it on your comments.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. And here's the thing, our inner critics, they're not for us. They're really not. And so we have to battle them. We have to, and I did that. I had to go to war with them. And it's really tough, you know. Mine were, my board of directors was every teacher who told me I would never amount to anything. It was every mean girl who said, your weight is an embarrassment. We don't want you, you know. It was all of the people lined up. That's who sat around the long conference table of my head.
And you know what? And here's the thing that I've learned through the years, and if you're open, I'd love to share this with you and for people who battle their board of directors or their committee in their head. What I did was I changed the members. Fire your board of directors. You add people that are supportive of you, and you become your biggest cheerleader in the sense that that's what you basically ended up doing. You quieted the board, and you said, enough. I am going to do it my way, and I'm going to do it how I want to do it. And that's what I love about you. I love about you that you're so open and you say all these things, and people can relate. But, you know, here is, you know, we're talking about how you've been able to overcome the chatter, rewriting those tapes. Who is your new member? Who are the new people in your board that you kind of like said, I'm going to fire you, I'm going to fire you, I'm going to fire you, and you became like Trump. You're fired. You're fired.
You're fired. That's right.
Okay. So with that, what are some of the tips that you've been able to utilize and share with, you know, people that are just relating with you right now, bleeding with you, having all those words? I love how you, and I'm going to take that from you and I'll quote you from now on, because I will quote you. And I'll say, you know, the tattoos that are written from "You're Not Enough," and that we don't see on the exterior, but we feel on the interior.
And let me just say to that before I answer who's in my head now.
Yeah.
I want people to know that is the analogy I use. You know, we would never go to a tattoo parlor and right before we walk inside, just find some Joe Schmo on the side of the road and go, hey, come in here and pick out what I'm going to get. You know, a lot of people that have tattoos, they mean something, right? They've thought about them. They've worked out the art. I use that analogy of every time they told me I was too big, too much, too loud, I would tattoo that on me. I would label myself with their negativity until I was just weighted down by it.
Yes. And you have truly come beyond that. So have you paid special, you know, how people get their tattoos removed? How are you removing these tattoos from your body?
I am removing them. It's a hard process. It's a grueling process. You know, I have a friend who actually had a tattoo removed. She said it was more painful than actually getting it. Yes. And I would agree with that as far as what we're talking about as well. Yes. And so it is a process, and but it can be done. It's hard work, but it can be done.
Absolutely. And we're going to continue our conversation with Melissa Radke, author of Eat Cake, Be Brave. And for those of you who would like a copy of this book, be the fifth caller or texter at 407-373-5959. And you'll be able to eat cake and be brave as well. And we're going to continue our conversation with Melissa when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Whew, I almost didn't make that one, Melissa. Did you see that?
I was trying to hush. So.
No. It wasn't you. I just went into too much of a close.
And you know what? And here's the thing. I am not a big fan of people who tell people what they should do, but don't really tell them how. And I think that's what you were wanting me to do, and we kind of ran out of time. And
that's okay. We still have another segment. Okay. Yeah, the how-tos, because people know how they feel. And people know they can connect with you. But I see so many people that stay there. They stay in that misery. They stay in that connection. Like, I can relate to you. Let's have a pity party, or let's have
Right.
and you said, no, I'm not going to have a pity party because nobody will come and bring gifts, right?
That's right. But they don't have an owner's manual,
There
and we
isn't.
we live in an owner's manual world where when I lost the owner's manual, I can't even remember what it was. My husband bought me some fancy piece of technology, and I lost the owner's manual. Did you know you can actually Google and the owner's manual comes up? I mean,
I know.
half of it. I mean, it's the best day and age ever. But so that's what we expect.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that we have to write it ourselves, and we don't know how. And I feel I'm not there now, but I was. And so I feel for those people who A, don't have an owner's manual, and B, are too weak to write it. They're too discouraged.
That's right. But there's no point in reinventing the wheel. If I want to improve upon the wheel, I can look. And by the way, I have a quote that I say all the time. It's like, we're only as smart as Google. We've got to stop relying on Google, because Google may be somebody else's. Anybody can write on Google now.
That's right.
And so, we get to reinvent your wheel. Like, what worked for you may not 100% work for me, but I can take a part of you, a part of me, a part of somebody else that has been special in your life. Everybody has. And I always say, learn as much as you can and take a little bit of who you are and make it your own.
I love that. My counselor actually, I believe in counseling and therapy. I believe in it. He told me, he said, I want you to choose 5 people to just watch them. I want you to choose one who is a successful mother. I want to choose one who is successful in her marriage, one in work. He said, just watch them. Just watch what they're doing. Even if you need to copy them for a short time, just so you start walking like them.
Love it.
And I did that. And I'm going to tell you what, that helped me tremendously, because what happens is, like a little deer, like a little fawn when it's born, finally we can stand up on our own legs and we can begin to move ourselves. Yeah. But it's okay to watch winners for a little while. It's okay.
Absolutely. I just wrote an article I write for Florida Today, and it's a newspaper in the Brevard County area. And last month's article was, the 5 Ds for success. And I took very successful people that I've interviewed, and I've taken that, because we look at financial success as the end all be all. Right. What good is financial success if you're miserable?
Ooh, right.
So I've taken the 5 Ds and I said, okay, let's take these 5 Ds that I created and turn them into, okay, how can I translate that mind, body, spirit? Because there's no point in having all the money in the world if I am not taking care of myself.
That's
and
exactly
finally, and I love, yes, your book is funny. Yes, but there's a lot of pearls in here that people can take away too. Through the laughter, we learned when we're laughing. And so through the laughter, there is so much that we can get to that next level of that knowing of your quakening. Yeah. Did I say that right? Quaking. Yeah. Quaking. I want to go awakening with a quakening. Maybe I'll steal your quakening.
Fine, you can steal it.
Oh man, this is good. Okay, this is where I talk about my social media, my show, and then I'll read.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn and grow together. Today's teacher is Melissa Radke. She is the author of Eat Cake, Be Brave. And you've been listening to her stories. The book is a very funny story, and you'll get a lot of wisdom from her experiences as well. Be the 5th caller or texter 407-373-5959, and you will win a copy of this book. And so that the show is heard worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. And I'm your host, Lillian McDermott, and it is my goal that we learn from each other. Go through life with childlike wonder. And I want to encourage you to not only go through life with childlike wonder, but I would love for you to, the person who's in front of you, learn something from them. They know something you don't know. And it is so important that you look with curiosity as opposed to criticism, which is what we're talking about here. Taking the criticism in life that has become a part of who you are. But really, when you break free from that and you break the ties that bind you, oh my gosh, empowerment and freedom, which is what we talk about here on the show. Responsibility. It is not your fault that I am who I am. I gave you too much power, gave you too much power. So I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. This is where we continue the conversations on and off the air. You'll have anything that you need, any topic that I've ever done, it's at whenyouneedafriend.com. Go there, subscribe, and also check out the YouTube video because we're having some really cool conversations off the air as well. So go to and click on, and when you subscribe to both channels, it will go right to you, to your iPhones, your tablets, your smartphones. So make sure that you subscribe. And while you're there, click on all the social media buttons, follow me as well, and check out my sponsors page. My sponsors page is the most important aspect because without my sponsors, there would be no Lillian McDermott radio show. So please support them the way they are supporting the show. Now, as you know, you can follow me on podcast and all the different, but most importantly, today, we're giving away the book, Eat Cake and Be Brave, or Eat Cake, Be Brave, not and, just eat cake. These are 2 commandments. Eat cake, be brave. And by Melissa Radke, and be the 5th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. I'm sure every single one of us can relate to Melissa's story. I certainly have my own conversations of unworthiness, and not only that, unlovable. I was told by I don't know, I didn't share this with you yet. I've shared it on the air before that, at 7, I was told by my teacher that I would never amount to much. And then at age 10, my grandmother, and it's a long story, but my grandmother told me that if I stopped learning how to play the piano, that she would stop loving me. And I stopped learning how to play the piano. So you take these words that are planted in you, and both of them were trying to motivate me, but they were motivating me in a way that was disempowering. Right. And I did not know that at the time. I don't even know if disempowerment is a word, but it is right now. And so it took me to go back and dissect who was my committee in my brain, who was driving me. Like you call it now, your board of directors, who's that committee? And we've got to fire those people. That's right. And replace the talk, the self-talk. And you've been able to do that. Let's talk, Melissa, and thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You are talking, and everything you're saying is so great. And I just want to talk. So I'm so glad I'm here.
Well, go ahead.
I love the topic. I love this topic. I love it so much that I sat and poured over this book for 6 months, and I am proud of this book. I think it's helping a lot of people, and I think it's helping people in a really non-threatening way. You are not going to open up this book and be like, I can't do this. Like she says words I'm just like you. I hurt just like you. I was embarrassed. We don't use that word a lot. We use words like I was shamed. And I was embarrassed, y'all. That's just plain and simple. I was embarrassed of myself, and I didn't want to do that anymore. And so we were talking about a little while ago. Okay, Melissa, what are some of the things that you did? Mm-hmm. And I understand for those listening, I love the fact that this is called When You Need a Friend, because there are just some people who just need a hand up. Okay, mm-hmm. They need to know that they can, and this is how we do it.
Yes.
And I want to tell you that if you were listening to Lillian, you did not hear Lillian say, so in order to feel more power in my own life, I had to sit down with my grandmother and dissect why she said that thing to me. And then her and I came up with a game plan. Nope. Mm-mm. You did not hear Lillian say, I had to contact that teacher who told me that when I was young and figure out what we were going to do about it. No, because they kept on moving. They kept on living. Honey, now it's up to you. And in my book, I talk about how sometimes we have to do the hard work. And you heard me say that with a D, H-A-R-D. But then as I was writing, I went, screw that word. Can I say that? Sorry.
You just did, but that's okay.
Forget that word. Forget hard. We're doing heart work. We're doing heart surgery. Okay. This is hard work or heart work, and you have to do it yourself. You can't track down every teacher. You can't track down every mean girl. You can't track down the stepfather who was ugly to you. You can't track down the mother who said belittling things to you. No, do it yourself. You quit being victim. You be victor. You do the heavy lifting. That's what I had to do. One day in particular, as trivial as this sounds, no doubt you have spoken to geniuses who would go, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but whatever works for you. I got a piece of paper. I drew a line down the middle. On one side of the paper, I wrote down everything they'd said about me, Lillian. I wrote down that they said I was gross, that they said I was fat, that they said I was a dreamer, that they said I was a waste of time. I wrote down that they said I was would never amount to anything, and that they said I was lazy, and because of my weight, I must be a slob. I wrote down every single thing like that. And on the other side of the paper, I wrote down every good thing that I could remember having been said about me by my parents or by my counselor, by another teacher. I wrote down every single thing that I knew God had ever said about me, because I am a person of faith. And do you know that with every positive, it would erase a negative? Every single thing. When they told me that I was ugly, my mother had told me, you're beautiful. When they told me I would never amount to anything, my husband had said, I believe in you. Every single thing could be marked out. But what do we hear the most? We hear the negatives. That's what we hang on to. And so, like an alcoholic that continues to go back to a drink, like a drug addict that continues to go back to a drug, I continued to go back to the left side of that paper. I did. Sometimes today, I still go back to the left side of the paper.
Sure, absolutely.
But then I remember that the right side canceled out all of it. And so I took Post-it notes. I put them in my dashboard of my car. I put them on my refrigerator and on my mirror. And I reminded myself every single day of what the truth about me actually was. Was it fun? No. Did I have to come face to face with some things about me that I didn't like? I absolutely did. That's called the heart work.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I love when you do your videos. And by the way, for those of you who would like to learn more and follow Melissa, you can go to melissaradke.com, and there you can click on her buttons or social media as well. And so what you're talking about is the moment of truth. This is the new truth I talk about on the air. We have been sold a bunch of lies, but it wasn't because of us. It was because of them. Those are the words in their head. That is their truth now. And they're trying to transfer it and get rid of it and give it to me. And I am no longer buying that. That is BS that I will no longer buy. And so I want you to know that, and for those of you who are listening to Melissa and listening to this conversation, it is not a one and done. It is it is like breathing. You don't say, oh, I breathed today. I don't need to breathe for the rest of my life. It is a constant cleansing of breath, just like you do with the hard work, the heart work that you talk about. But here's the thing. I also quote a lot of the great philosopher Meatloaf. I don't know if you know who he is, but he wrote the song.
A little before my time. But
yes, I know. Okay, I'm much older than you, Melissa. Just rub it in, okay? So basically, the song goes, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. That won't do that. That's what I want for everybody to know. What will we do? What can we do to achieve? Look at what Melissa has done in a very, very short period of time. And so it turns around, like Meatloaf, like the song goes, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. What are we wanting? I would do anything for health. I would do anything for love. I would do anything to be successful, but I won't do that. What is that thing that we are incapable or unwilling? And go ahead, Melissa, what do you want to say about that?
I think for me,
yes,
I don't know about everybody else, but please, if you're listening today, please just think on it. I'm asking you to think on it. Is it unforgiveness? I'll do anything for love, but I won't forgive.
Oh, yeah.
He walked out on me. He left me with these children for another, so I won't do that.
Yes.
You better make sure it's not that one. That one's going to hold you prisoner for far longer than you ever thought.
Yes. I wrote an article called Embracing the F and S Word.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one off the air. But so for those of you who are listening to Melissa today and you can relate to everything we're talking about today, be the fifth caller or texter 407-373-5959 and win a free copy of Eat Cake, Be Brave. When we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com, we'll be right here waiting for you as we continue our conversation off the air. Okay. Oh, yeah. People want this book. So here we go. There's a couple things I want to say. You talked about the list that you wrote. The list, people do that with all those negative thoughts. People do that, and it is so cleansing. And that is, I don't know if you learned it or if you researched it or what, but that is something we talk about on the show here to rewrite the tapes.
Okay.
Have you heard of Dr. Bruce Lipton?
No.
Dr. Bruce Lipton is the father of epigenetics. Have you ever heard of epigenetics?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so epigenetics.
But I could never explain it. But yes, I have heard of it, yeah.
Well, he was, there were so many different things on my show. There was a couple of things that I want to tap into that you said. And it was like, you knew that you could do more until you tasted that more, you developed that thirst for that more. That was a challenge for me. I thought that I was healthy until someone came on my show and challenged me to go raw vegan for a month. And I said, okay, I can do anything for a month. I'll try it. And I thought I felt good, but I felt better.
Really?
I didn't know after 3 or 4 days of eating this way, which by the way, at first was horrible. And I'm not a raw vegan. I'm not a raw foodist, but I do eat a lot of raw foods. But I didn't know I could feel better. And it's whatever it is, whatever that song that Meatloaf sings,
That's right.
I would do anything. Is it health? Is it love? Is it, and I know that you talk about in your book, and I want to talk about this off the air so that when people listen, they have a little bonus. You say that you've been married, happily married, or married for 24 years. 17 of them have been happy. So you want to share a little bit about that?
I've been married to David for 24 years. I came up with a line. 17 of them have been great.
Yeah.
One day when I was doing some public speaking, I was standing in front of an audience of about 2,000 people, and I said that, and he was on the front row, and he almost busted a gut. That just flew out of my mouth, and I kind of looked down at him thinking that he'd go, "What the heck?" He was dying laughing because he knew it was true. Here's the deal. You know what marriage is? It's when two broken people decide to live together.
That's right.
That's what it is. And that's the way it is. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But we're lying if we say that we're not broken or that none of us came from dysfunction. Give me a fat break. Yes, we did.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had to get healthy together. And that was a lot of counseling. We had grief in our marriage, loss in our marriage, and then lost trust. Correct. In our marriage. Because when we began to grieve over the loss of our son, we did so privately and in different places in our home, literally and figuratively. Mm-hmm. And he began to put he had an emotional affair with actually my very best friend. Mm-hmm. It broke my heart, but it did not kill me.
Correct.
I may have been down, but I wasn't out.
Correct.
And we decided to heal together. As I was writing that chapter, I felt embarrassed about that. Because the world tells you to leave, girl. The world tells you to key their car and burn their clothes. Mm-hmm. But something inside me said, but wouldn't the story of restoration, wouldn't that be nice? Nobody ever tells that story. Yeah. So I had to work on that as well. We're never done working.
I know. You keep working. And you know what? If you would have kicked him to the side of the road, if you start with somebody you knew, you will have to start all over training them. You got to train them.
That's exactly right. You've put too much in already. You might as well finish.
Or leave her a voicemail.
You're right. 407. So let's talk about what the world tells us.
Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn and grow together. Today's teacher is Melissa Radke, and we are talking about her book, Eat Cake, Be Brave, and be the fifth caller or texter, 407-373-5959, and you will win a free copy of this book. If you want to get a copy of this book, you could also go to, for your convenience, whenyouneedafriend.com. It's right there waiting for you. You can click on it and get it, or you can go to melissaradke.com or your local bookstore to get this book. So off the air, Melissa, I'm really enjoying. I mean, I think we could get together with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, whatever it is that you like to consume, and really just sit down and talk about these new truths that that the old truth didn't support us anymore. You know, when we were young, we were told, treat others the way you want to be treated. Works really well, because when I was young, it was all about me, right?
That's right.
But as you get older, that doesn't support us anymore. We have to treat people, we get to treat people the way they want to be treated. Get to know them. Get to know what speaks to their heart, what speaks to their love language, whatever it is that treat others the way they want to be treated. So the world tells us one thing, but we learn this new truth as we go through this transformation period. What are some of the truths that you've discovered about yourself that support you now, that supported you back then, but no longer supported you, and you have rewritten?
So you're asking me, what are some truths that now I lean into?
Correct. Yeah, that there were some things that you grew up with, thinking that this is the way it should be. Like, for example, forgiveness. And like the world says, you know, if somebody breaks trust with you, walk away.
Right.
But there's a difference between trust and forgiveness. I will say that. Forgiveness is something that you can do for yourself instantly. Trust, however, is for the other person to earn back with you. And so go ahead.
Here are two right away that I think of, and I hope I remember the second one. I don't lose my thoughts. But the first one is this. One of the things that we grow up telling our children, therefore I believed, is that they can do anything. You can do anything. And here's the deal. No, they can't. No, they can't. They cannot be the next American Idol if they cannot carry a tune. Okay? They just can't. They cannot be starting quarterback. You know, they can't take over for Brady if they, you know, have absolutely no coordination whatsoever. And also they hate football. I mean, let's be honest with our kids. Do what you do well. And so you have to understand, Lillian, I tried out for cheerleader 3 times. I have absolutely no rhythm. I cannot turn a flip. And as my mother once told me so poetically, when you jump, you don't even get off of the ground. Like, there's no air. So my mother was really honest with me, and I do that with my children. I think we're doing a disservice when we're not honest with them. When we, you know, I think that first episode or 2 of American Idol where the kids all go in and sing and they're terrible. Like at home, there's some embarrassed parents. They should have been honest with those kids. That's the first thing. I had to realize as I got older that you know what the world needed from me? The world needed for me to do what I was made to do and not what somebody else was doing and what looked fancy and exciting. But if it didn't affect the world, if it only affected my small family, still do that. Do what I inherently was made to do and quit thinking, I can do this. It isn't helping anybody. Okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is, we were talking about unforgiveness, and the world tells us to, we hear so much about toxic people and get out of that bad relationship and girl, you deserve better and kicking to the curb. But we hear nothing about restoration and unforgiveness. We hear nothing that's about the fact that sometimes when you stick it out and when you stay and when you do the hard work, there is a payoff. We don't ever hear that. And
but I'd like to interject here that if there is any form of abuse, I'm talking about the person beating the other person, that's a deal breaker, right? I just
absolutely. In fact, I was doing a Facebook Live on this, and a woman wrote in and she said, so you're telling me if there's abuse, you should say? And I'm like, don't hear what I'm not saying. Do not hear what I am not saying. That is, and if you know me, you know that's not the case. But when my husband began an emotional relationship, and we went to counseling, and people go, how do you know it wasn't physical? Maybe it was. The point is, he broke my trust and my heart all in one fell swoop.
Yes.
I was already broken, and he did nothing to help that, to heal me. But all I'm saying is, I began to write this chapter on how I stayed, on how I forgave. And I began to get embarrassed, right? Because the world says to go, girl, you got to go, you got to. And I just decided that every love story needs a hero. And I wanted to be it. I wanted to be a hero. I'd never gotten to be one. And I wanted to be one. And I stayed and I put in the work. I have a better marriage today than I
Absolutely.
did then.
Absolutely.
Was it easy to get to? No. Was it a yellow brick road? No. But it sure was worth it. I
Yes.
like knowing that I have something sweeter today because I was willing to sweat for it, you know?
Absolutely. And I always promote Marriage Encounter, Retrovive. Those are two groups that people can look into. And if you want, you can always text me and ask me about that, 407-373-5959. There are so many ways to heal because, it's not just one person doing all, but if you really look at yourself and you say, okay, what did I do? What did I do that could have contributed to this? Where can I take 100% responsibility, regardless of whether or not they're taking responsibility? How can I say, okay, I not only need to dissect what happened here, but where did I help in that situation? That's the part that we're missing. And once we see ourselves as flawed, not just the other person as flawed, but where we also fed into the separation or the
Absolutely.
yes. And
that's the thing. Now when I sit down and I talk with people about marriage, and I do a lot, I say that they continually talk about him. And I say, guys, we got to be honest here. I left him devastated in a lot of ways. I mean, infertility had become a science project for us. We had sex because we had to, and that's what the thermometer said, and it was that time, and it was a science project. I wasn't letting him touch me any other time. What I wanted in a baby far outweighed what I wanted from him. I mean, you have to read the chapter to know that I literally once said to the man, "Don't touch me. You make me sick. The only thing I want from you is a baby." This was a broken person. Who did that? Him?
Yeah.
No, me.
Yeah.
So come on. We're all are causing and these things.
It's amazing that honesty that you have in your book. So here's the thing, for you to realize that we are not just the victim, that we do push people away with our actions, with our words. And when you take that ownership and say, I could see how that, I don't condone it. The other person needs to come back and be strong and say, hey, the way you're making me feel right now, I want to walk away from you.
That's right.
I wish that communication really happened between people. It exists between my husband and I see that it exists with your husband and you. And it is a thrill, that we could have walked away at any time, Melissa. And I always say this, I say, I could have walked away from my marriage when we were 7 years. But had I walked away at that moment, we would have just taken away all the jewels and all the beauty that comes from staying.
That's
People,
right.
like you said, people don't talk about that.
There
is an opportunity, but we've got to start with forgiveness.
That's right.
Forgiveness of self and the other, because we are no saints either. And that's where, when you stand so righteous and say, oh, I did nothing to hurt this marriage, it's all the other person, then there's no form of reconciliation.
That's right. And we have people listening today who have been hurt when they were children. And you know what? It probably, maybe it isn't on a child when they've been hurt by an adult. Correct. Or whatever.
Absolutely.
But it is on them now to forgive.
Absolutely. And to live, to break that, not relive the incident in their mind and body their whole life. Okay. So as we get closer to the end, I want to again say, eat cake, be brave. 407-373-5959. Fifth caller or texter will win a free copy. Melissa Radke, I have totally enjoyed our conversation.
Are you really serious? It's over? Like, no way.
Yes.
Oh, come on.
I know. It happens every time. Get used to it.
I wanted to do the 2-hour show with you.
Okay, we'll have you come back. Thank you so much, Melissa. And now it is time for us to decide what we want. Do we want to eat cake and be brave? Be brave is the point of this book. That's right. For those of you, remember, it is time to stand up for yourself and fire your committee. Please remember, I'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever! That's the best ever, Melissa. Ever! Good job. That's great. I really enjoyed our conversation. And it is so important that we be real, that we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this is something I wanted to say several times, but I just wanted you to share your story. But one of the things I want to say now is that, many of us, and I've written about this and I've talked about this probably ad nauseum, but I'm going to say it again. When something happens to us that's devastating, we get it. We have to feel it. We get it. But we can't let it just stay in us. It needs to be released somehow, because then by allowing it to stay in us, it promotes disease. And that's why it's so important that we forgive. And people sometimes don't get it. And instead of asking the question, why did this happen to me? We need to ask the question, how did this happen for me? How? Be curious. And in your life, you can help so many people that have dealt with infertility, that have helped with lack of trust, that have helped with adoption. And by the way, I had 2 kids in my womb, but 2 kids were born in my heart. So those are different ways that we can help others through. And if you go to my website at whenyouneedafriend.com and check out my 100% responsibility page, there are 4 little questions that you ask to go from that victim that you talked about to that victor, to that responsible person that says, you will no longer define who I am.
That's right. Do I have time to share this with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. If we're still being recorded, I want to tell this little story.
You are.
It's going to sound very odd to someone maybe who is not maybe a person of faith or have a prayer life. But on the day that my husband and I went to the hospital, I was big and fat and pregnant. I was about 5 months along, and maybe 6. And they did an ultrasound and saw that he was terribly ill. The child inside me was terribly ill. And we began to immediately go into panic mode. What do we do? They said he would never live. He did. He lived for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. But on this day that we went and we found out, we had a whole group of friends waiting for the good news of how does everything look? They were so excited for us. Instead, we had to call them and say, they're telling us he's going to die. They're saying that he's sick inside. We don't know what to do. By the time we got back to our house, we had cars all over our yard, in our driveway, of friends who had all come over. We walked in our house. I fell down at my couch and I began to pray. There's probably 25 people in my house. Everyone is crying and weeping. You have to know, I had had 4 miscarriages at this point. Yeah. These people wanted me to win. They wanted me to see me succeed. I began to cry and pray at my couch. I'm leaned on my couch and I'm saying out loud. Apparently I was saying it out loud and I didn't realize it. Why? 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 Why me? Everybody else is pregnant. Why me? Why this child now? I've gone this far. I can feel him moving. Why? 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 And I heard this voice in my ear, and I did not even know that my pastor had arrived at the house. He had come in quietly. And he had knelt down beside me and he said, as clear as day, quit saying why and start saying what. What now? What do you want me to learn? What is all this for? What can I do to survive this? What will be my next move? What lesson are you trying to teach me? Quit saying why and start saying what. I use that for everything in my life now.
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing? Thank you for sharing that story. There's so many times in our life that, that seed is planted. That's the voice of truth. That is the truth. That's the voice of truth. I remember, I have to share a real quick story, because when I was married before, and that marriage ended in divorce. And I was determined that I was not ever, 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 ever. And it took dissecting that marriage for me to realize, it wasn't just him who left and abandoned our children. It was the me who was the jerk too, that pushed him away as well. There's just so many, it's a lot of dissections. And I thought, there's no way I'll ever want to love again. And I fell in love with my current husband. We've been married for 24 years, been together for 25. And so that's why I say I've had 2 children that were born in my womb and 2 that were born in my heart. And so we blended a family together. And I remember thinking, I have never been so happy. I have never been so happy. And this has never happened to me before. And I don't think I've ever shared the story, so I'm going to share it today. But I remember I would hear a song and I'd see my husband smile, or I was just so happy. And then all of a sudden I'd say, but what if he dies? What if something happens to him? Or what if my father dies? And I would immediately go into like a crying. I would just start crying. Just the thought of something happening to my husband. And I now know that, as you know, I've gone back, become a certified life coach, and I've dissected some of these things that I was doing. First it's a thought, then it's a feeling, then it's an action. Yeah. So at that time, I was like feeling it, going through it. I was mourning. And that went on, Melissa, for 6 months. I never told anyone. I have never dealt with depression. I do not know what depression is. I just didn't know what to call this.
Right.
I didn't know. And I was crying one time. I was listening to this song that reminded me of my husband. And I could see him, like his little goofy smile. And the thought came, because he traveled a lot. What if there's an accident and he flies on a plane? I had to pull the car over. And I was crying uncontrollably. This has never happened to me in my life. And I heard the word, that voice of truth that said, "Why do you mourn the living?"
Wow.
I've heard that voice many times in my life. I call it my intuition.
Yeah.
The God in me.
That's right.
And I remember going, "What?" And I heard the words again. "Why do you mourn the living?" That was the last time it happened. The last time it happened, it was like, my husband is alive. I'm going to enjoy every minute. My father is alive. He's 88 today. I'm going to enjoy every minute. You know, what if my mom, she's 84. Can you imagine all those years of torture?
That's right.
Had I not nipped that in the thought.
You're absolutely right. You do not have any idea where that would have taken you.
Oh, yes.
You could have continued to spiral down so much. We got it. You're absolutely right. I profess that feelings follow actions. Okay. We do not always want to go to the gym, but we feel better once we've gone. Yes. Our feelings follow our actions. And I'm going to act like I have him today and forever. That this, and then your feelings are going to follow. You're right. You got to nip it in the bud.
Yeah. Yeah. Nip it in the thought,
or those thoughts will spiral out of control.
They will be. And so we become prisoners of that thought that is originated. And that's what I was telling you about Bruce Lipton. You know, he was the one that said to me, you know, first it's the thought, then it's the feeling, then it's the action. He was the one that said, you don't inherit your DNA. Yes, you do. DNA has 3%, less than 3%. It causes your diseases in life. Less than 3%. How do you become diseased? You inherit the family recipes, first of all. Second, then you inherit the way they stress, the way they think, the way they act. And so that what trumps your DNA, because you could have, you know, just a horrible like family tree or whatever, lots of bad genetics or whatever, but you can trump it with your thoughts.
You're right. Absolutely.
Because your thoughts will lead you to that life you want.
That's right.
Or you don't want.
You're right. And for those who are finishing watching this, I just want to say, it really never ends. There are seasons when we can relax and rest. We've done some hard work. We've done some heart work. We've done the heavy lifting. We've trained our thoughts. But then what happens is you get hungry for a little bit more. And that's the stage I'm in. I wrote the book. The book came out. We've seen great success with the book. I'm traveling and speaking all over the United States. And all of a sudden, within the last week, I feel that inner voice, that truth, that intuition go, there's more, just so you know, there's more.
And what's the more?
More, I don't know. I know there's more I can learn. I know there's more I can heal. I know there's more I can speak to and address. There's more in me because there's more that you called me a teacher today. No one has ever called me that.
You
and
are.
When you called me that, I went, I like that. I like that. Might I get the chance to help people? Might I get the chance to teach them? If so, then God, Spirit, whatever it is that you address, teach me more. And then I just get restless and I want to go deeper, you know?
Well, not only, you know, and they say that great teachers are great students. And so we switch from both teacher, student, teacher, student, teacher, student. When I went for my personal growth, and I thought, okay, I've always read, if I'm going to read, I was going to read a personal growth book. And I heard Wayne Dyer say, and I don't know if you're familiar with Wayne
Oh, yeah.
Dyer, but I heard him say, this was like probably 40 years ago, maybe, no, not 40, maybe 35 years ago. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but if you turn it around, if you look at it on the other side, there's always beauty on the other side. If you're looking at the darkness, there's always a light on the other side. When you're looking at a sunrise that has a cloud in front of the sun, the people behind the cloud are seeing the most beautiful sun, or maybe sunrise as well. So there's just so many different ways that we can look at it. And so what as I've gone, to learn about, what's more, what's next, just saying yes, discovering what that is, and learning that. When I was going back to, I just went off on a little tangent there, went to Europe, came back, turned into Africa. But, so when I was going through this personal growth, there was a 13-year-old and a 70-year-old in my group. And I was going there as a student. I was going there to learn and grow. And I didn't know it was so scary, but I knew I needed to be there. I just knew it because my feelings weren't as strong as my commitment.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's great.
So I learned from a 13-year-old. I would have never thought I could learn anything from a 13-year-old. But now I always say, go through life with childlike wonder. Check out what the person, be curious instead of critical. And it's just changed my dynamics and how I have enjoyed my life. In the radio show, had it not been for that guy that challenged me to go raw vegan, and I started feeling so good. I didn't feel bad, Melissa. I just started feeling better. And I thought, well, if I could feel better with this, what else is out there? What else had been lied to? I didn't know food was medicine. I didn't know I could heal naturally. I didn't know all that stuff. So all these teachers, you're a teacher, and I'm so grateful to you for teaching what you know. And I see, and this is my take on reading your book and knowing who you are today, that everything happened for you so that you can become this, like before you were like this light under a bushel, and you've taken this light under a bushel and put it on top, and you've become a lighthouse.
I love
lighthouse, not a candle, a lighthouse, a power that lights in the people's path. And so I just want to say congratulations for breaking free and hearing that voice of truth that is your intuition, that is the God in you, that has always been in you, but that you finally said, I'm ready.
Thank you. You used the word free, and I told somebody the other day, I said, look, brave is a cool word right now. It's used a lot in our culture. But the truth is, the learner knows that brave is just a substitute for free. That book could have easily been written to say, eat cake, be free. Bravery, a life of bravery is a life of facing those things, owning up to them, beating them, learning from them, and living free. So thank you so much for saying that.
Well, and I was going to end it right here, but I have to say something that's been like every time I see a video of yours that you start by saying somebody else is more articulate, somebody else is more eloquent, and somebody else can't do this. I'm saying fire that voice in your head that's saying that, because that is not true.
Is that voice on the board of directors?
Yes.
Do they need to go?
Yeah, they need to be fired because you have a lot to say, and you say it in a way that can relate to people that don't relate to me. I say it in a way that people that relate to me that don't relate to you, we are all in this together. And don't ever say that, ever, because you are articulate and you are enough and you do have a message and you allow. I know when you click off the brain and you just let the God in you speak. I know that.
Good. That's good stuff. Thank you, Lillian.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been the best start to my morning. You have no idea.
What time is it over there?
8:14.
8:14. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. You've been the bright spot of my day today, and I've got a lot of things to do, but I will always enjoy this conversation. Maybe we can have you come back, because
I'd love it.
There's just more than Melissa Radke than what we were able to tap into today. So thank you, Melissa.
That's right. Thank you, Lillian. I'll see y'all later.
Yes,
Bye.
Hold on. Oops. Hold on a second.